everyone, Felice Gerwitz here, and I want to share with you something that is dear to my heart, and that is saving you money. Can you use encouragement for your homeschool journey? Have you been searching for an online learning program designed to ground your family in a Christian worldview? Well, now you can at MediaAngelsMembership.com. Our affordable membership packages fit your budget and busy life. Now you can access customized membership packages for your homeschooling family from the extensive Media Angels library of books, classes, and Bible studies. You may select the ebook bundle, the creation bundle, the premium bundle, or the forever bundle. Each bundled set will save you vast amounts of money. Our packages begin at less than $10, and you can use it for the whole family. So go to MediaAngelsMembership.com for more information. That's MediaAngelsMembership.com. You'll be glad you did.
This is a production of the Ultimate Homeschool Radio Network. Welcome to the Vintage Homeschool Mom Show. Your host, Felice Gerwitz, is an author, a publisher, and your radio show host. She will encourage, educate, and inspire you with answers to your most pressing questions, from homeschool, marriage, parenting, and much more. Felice loves to equip moms to live a Christian life because every moment counts. Be sure to visit her website at MediaAngels.com. And here's your host, Felice Gerwitz.
Hey everyone, and welcome. This is Felice Gerwitz with an episode of Vintage Homeschool Moms. Today we are going to talk about money-saving field trip ideas, and this is episode 377, and you can find the show notes at Vintage Homeschool Moms. And I want to thank all of you for participating on our 6th birthday as a network at the Ultimate Homeschool Podcast Network. We have many different podcasters, and it is always such a blessing to be able to bring you shows every day. There is someone who has a new podcast out, plus hundreds and hundreds of podcasts in the archives. So visit our website at Ultimate Homeschool Podcast Network. Our giveaway goes on the month of October, so if you're listening to this in the archives, just join our mailing list so you'll always know what's going on. Plus, we have a printable that's available each month. They change, so be sure to stay subscribed so you can get those. And today I have a very good friend on the line and special guest, and that is Meredith Curtis, and that also has a podcast on this network. Welcome, Meredith.
Oh, Felice, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here today.
Yeah, me too. And so tell us about your podcast.
Well, our podcast is Finish Well, and it's the homeschooling families with teens in them. And we talk about a range of topics from academics to spiritual life to overcoming depression. We actually even tackled the very difficult subject of sexual abuse on one of our latest shows. So we are, our heart is to help homeschooling families finish the race well. And so that's been a real blessing. And you can also find me on my website, powerlineprod.com. And that is just ongoing. We have a heart to minister to homeschooling families and see them experience joy and success in their adventure from beginning to end.
Wonderful. And also MeredithCurtis.com. You've got quite a bit going on there. So guys, reach out, listen to Meredith's podcast and also visit her on her website, and then you can follow her on social media as well. Well, Meredith, today we're going to be talking about money-saving field trip ideas, and, both of us have big families, and going on a field trip wasn't always in the budget, especially some field trips are very expensive. So we're going to talk about, some places that we can go for free, or you can do things and get a discount. For example, we would go on field trips to a nature center, or even go on a hike, that just was, you could just pay for parking. That might be $3 and the whole family could go. So let's talk about that. What are some good ways, for example, even if you're doing the park thing, that we could save money?
Well, yeah, I feel like as homeschooling families, everywhere we go, it's a field trip. You're visiting someone in the hospital, and that's a field trip, and you can kind of poke around. And you'll think this is funny, but when I gave birth to my younger children, I let my older children come in, and I would say to the doctor, "Hey, can you show them the placenta?"
Oh my God!
They can see what it's like. But I think wherever we go, we can take a walk around the neighborhood. And one of the things, the little tips that I think about turning anything into a field trip is to either bring a magnifying glass along or binoculars, because when you bring a magnifying glass along, you're just walking along the sidewalk and you see something interesting, you can squat down with the magnifying glass and look at it more closely. Or if you're walking along and you have binoculars and you see a beautiful bird, you can put on the binoculars and you can see the bird more clearly. So those are just some, worthy investment, especially for nature walks, walking in the forest. My daughter Kate likes to take her boys across a field, and then they cross, they get into the woods, and they cross an old abandoned railroad track. And then there's a farm on the other side that, they can see the animals. And so that in just one little walk that takes about 15 minutes, they walk through a field, they go through woods, they go across the railroad track, and they see farm animals. And so the kids never get tired of going on that walk. It's very exciting to them.
Right, and you can, do a little story when you get home. As my kids said, I could turn any fun adventure into school. So you have to be careful to not be like me. But I still hear you. I remember going to the dentist and the same thing, asking what our friends are. We laugh about, we have 3 different friends that are all dentists. And so, we've gone to different ones through the years, and so they know us by now, so that when we walk in, they're like, okay, she's going to make this school. But, they talk about the Novocaine, and they talk about, doing panoramic x-rays, or when my daughter had braces, the little ones were really excited to see that. So I'm not as brave about childbirth that I was like, I barely let my husband in, let alone the kids. But we can. You can really turn so many things. The grocery store could be turned into school. I remember giving the kids a little field trip or scavenger hunt assignment, and I would tell them, find everything that starts with the letter M, or things that you would find in space, like Milky Way bars, or
cool.
Just kind of getting them to, I used to be able to just sprout all these off, Meredith. I can't anymore. I had about 4 things that were, space related, but the kids love it. And then it keeps them good. And then people stop you and say, how do you go shopping with all these kids? They're so good. It's because they all have their papers and they're, trying to figure things out. So, that's one example, is to, do that, wherever you go, kind of keep that in the back of your mind. I love the idea of magnifying glasses and binoculars. I think that's, something that you could actually keep in your car, in a small backpack, and then have that ready to go. Also, like group pricing, let's talk about that.
Oh, that is something I think that is a really great way to go. And, many of us have families that are big enough for the group discount. And, we always think, so I've been surprised at how small the group has to be to have a discount. Right. And so we have done that, we have gone as a family and gotten the group discount, or maybe brought a couple of other people. But that's one thing, is even if you don't want to do a co-op, or you don't want to do you don't want to do enrichment classes, just being attached to a support group gives you access to all the field trips they go on. And we've gone on so many neat field trips at discount prices through support groups. Like we've gone to ballets, we've gone to orchestras, we've gone to things, museums for $2 admission, and just all kinds of things like that. Another thing, Felice, that is a great field trip are performances at your local community college. Especially at Christmas time, we love to go to hear their orchestra play, and it really sounds professional. And to hear their choir cantatas and things like that. And they even have art exhibits. Now, I like to check those out first because, the world we live in is not what we're teaching our children. So, but I find those are, great ways. I think group pricing, we have actually gotten into Kennedy Space Center for free just because they have student programs. And I think, other times we've gone in there and each family's paid like $5. So
it's
really
expensive.
Yeah. So it's really a great way to go.
Yeah. And Christina, my daughter, has yearly passes to places like the zoo. There's a Naples Zoo that is fairly close, maybe 30, 45 minutes away. And she goes enough times to make things like that worth it. So you could look at your state parks. And when we camped a lot, we had a state park, membership, because then your camping rate, I think, was $15 a night, which makes it super affordable. Of course, that could be turned into a field trip because you've got so much stuff going on when you camp, and that's always fun. And then also, cutting back on going out to eat. We always laugh and say when someone else makes you a sandwich, it's the most delicious thing you've ever had. So we would take turns preparing lunch. And, and even my friends and I would do that. We'd say, you know what, I'm going to bring lunch this time for everyone. And it could just be, a loaf of bread. And, of course, with allergies and stuff now, you have to be careful. But, a loaf of bread and peanut butter and jelly, or even, some sliced ham and cheese. And the kids can make sandwiches when we get there, and just bring some condiments. But it just saves so much money, rather than trying to, I'm thinking even top of the line ham could be $10 or $12 a pound, and that goes so far, with bread and cheese, and some lettuce and so forth, and you can't even go to fast food and spend less than that, if everybody's per person, if everybody's eating, or, maybe half of that. But things like that will really help, and then that also brings it down. But, they have homeschool days too. So that's something else to look for, is the homeschool day discount. We both live in the state of Florida, and there's a lot of those that happen. Even with the theme parks have them. They'll have Florida days, or they'll have Florida passes. You get a discount. You can go to places like AAA. And, some places like that, you do need a membership, but you can get discounts. You can get discounts for places through any kind of store type of thing. So if you have like a Sam's or a Costco or a BJ's or any of those kinds of stores, a lot of times you'll find discounts off of different things. Like, for example, if we've ever traveled, I would never have thought to use a Costco card to get a rental car, and it's almost like the price is almost half of a rental car.
Oh, wow.
I mean, some of the cars were so little that, you kind of look, because I'm used to driving an SUV, so, but
yes,
but it doesn't matter. I mean, I think I got a car for the kids, and I when they were looking at different colleges, for, I want to say, like $25 for 3 days. It was, very affordable. So you can look at, look at what you have at home, and start there, without having to spend a lot. So anything else that you can think of that would be, time saving, or even would be helpful?
Yes, I was thinking when you were talking about Christina having a pass to the zoo, Zach's grandparents are still alive, and every Christmas they want to get something really, kind of extravagant for the family. So they've asked for passes, like they've gotten zoo family passes. This year they have a science center pass. And I remember one year that we were doing an oceanography year-long unit study, and so we got SeaWorld passes for the family, and we went at least once a month. And we really got our money's worth out of the passes and learned so much, because we would make sure that, we were hitting the exhibits that were related to what we had been studying. And in fact, Felice, it's so funny because I actually did a radio show a few months ago called 1001 Homeschool Days at the Beach. And we have taken so many field trips to the beach because we love the beach. And so if you ever want to go to the beach a lot and not feel guilty because you want to feel like you're taking a homeschool field trip, then listen to that podcast, because it's just all the different things that you can learn at the beach. And you may be surprised at how much there is to learn at the beach. But those are just things that have really, it's fine to do a field trip over and over again, because there's so many different things that you can learn and discover. And I think one of the things I started doing when my kids were little is I made a field trip folder. And as something would be mentioned in the newspaper, I would just cut it out, or, I saw like a flyer or brochure, I would just tuck it into that folder. And let me give you an example. In our area, there's a big Swedish population. So they have a St. Lucia festival every year. Well, I read about it one year and I put it in my little folder, but every single year there was something going on during that festival. But one year, like 7 years later, we finally went, and it was just so sweet. And they had the little girls with, dressed in traditional costumes and the little wreath of candles. And it was just a really, really sweet time. And they opened up the museum for free. And so that's something that I think was a blessing to me as a homeschool mom. It was just having this folder, because I just collected ideas. And, every once in a while I would just look through the folder. And so anyway, that's just some things. Wonderful. I think field trips are such a blessing. They're so fun, and you make so many memories. So I'm all for field trips.
I think that they are. They just add on to learning. And we have a Greek Orthodox church that's down the street from our church, and that has a Greek festival every year. And so we always meant to go and really never did, because it was so crowded. And then my son had an assignment when he was dual enrolled at the college, and which is right behind the church. Everything's in this little area. And so we ended up going because he had to do some observation. I forget what the assignment was exactly, but it was really fun. And then also, when you were talking about a folder of ideas, there were a lot of archaeological studies here because of Florida pretty much is just an archaeological haven, with limestone and what they find and some fossils and things like that. And we went to a couple of different things. One was a Peace River event where they were able to find some dinosaur bones in the Peace River, which is a freshwater river or near it. Yes, and so we started that, which then led my daughter and I into writing the Two Seekers Mystery Series, which came out of that field trip. And she minored in archaeology, which again is interesting because it came from something that, she went to as a kid. Plus, in that folder that I also had in my alternate universe, 4 hours away from you south, I remember taking something out of the paper back in the day when we got the newspaper, and this man was doing a study, and so he opened it to kids and students. So we went, and I even have pictures of this, and that gentleman ended up being her Florida archaeology teacher when Christina went to FGCU. So it's just so funny. That,
oh my goodness.
That when she told me the professor's name, I'm like, oh my gosh, he was so nice and so, really, he had a good sense of humor. And so he just really had the kids super engaged and everything. So I can, so she really was very interested in that. But so great, because, I mean, we can find things, now that most people don't get the paper, you can just go online and look at your online
I don't get the paper
sources.
anymore either.
Right. And just look at places like that, things happening in town. And, I know a lot of the news stations have websites where they talk about things that are happening in town. So these are so great. So you don't have to spend a lot of money to learn outside of the home, and it's so helpful. But thank you so much, Meredith, for the time. I'm going to put that link for the 1001 Homeschool Days at the Beach in the show notes here as well.
Good. And thank you so much for having it. And for everyone out there, have a blast doing field trips and realize there's so much you can do, especially with little ones. Everything is exciting. You just have to say, we're going on an adventure, and they are with you.
Yeah, they are. That's for darn sure. Okay, friends, well, visit the website at vintagehomeschoolmoms.com. Look for episode 377, Money Saving Field Trips. Take care, God bless, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Vintage Homeschool Mom Show. Visit Felice at MediaAngels.com and TheVintageHomeschoolMoms.com. Vintage Homeschool Moms is a production of the Ultimate Homeschool Radio Network.